Hello everyone, welcome you all to this course titled Management Skills for New Managers. This is a course, it's an introductory course about management skills that are required for people who are moving into management roles within their organizations. In this course, we will be covering definition of management, terms of what does management really means. We'll cover about the levels and types of management in an organization, the functions of a manager, and your role and responsibility as a manager in your organization. With that being said, let's move on to what does management really mean. Management. The word management comes from the word manage. English word manage, which is a verb, and the definition of the word manage as in the dictionary is to be in charge of a company, establishment or undertaking. Manage means to be able to administer, to run and be successful in surviving or in attaining one's aims, especially when the times are tough. So, moving on to the management definition. Management, as defined in Wikipedia, is a simple definition. Its simple definition is management in business and organizations is the function that coordinates the efforts of people to accomplish goals and objectives using available resources efficiently and effectively. The key words here to remember in this definition are coordinating efforts of people, accomplish goals and objectives using available resources efficiently and effectively. So, simply put, it's people coordination, goals and objectives accomplishment, and utilization of effective utilization of resources available in an organization. This is a simple definition given in Wikipedia. Talking about some management gurus, one of them, Dr. Angelo Kiniki from Arizona State University, he coined the definition of management in his own words as this. The management of a business consists of goal creation, commitment, reward and accomplishment with human interaction at every turn. Just to talk a little about Dr. Angelo Kiniki. Dr. Kiniki is a professor of management and the recipient of Leadership Award. He is an author and consultant as well. Doctorate in Business Administration from Kent State University. He is very renowned. He became one of the Dean's Council of 100 distinguished scholars at W.P. Carey School of Business. Dr. Kiniki has written many books in business administration and journals and white papers about how business functions, how businesses are administered, and what are some of the traits of managers that are very important for running successful businesses. So Dr. Kiniki in his definition also relates management function to goal creation, people and effective utilization of resources. But one very important thing that he points out is commitment, reward and accomplishment, and he talks about human interaction. Those are some of the very important things because end of the day we work with people and people are the sole reason why businesses are successful. This is besides good products and good strategies, it's people who make it happen. And one of the basic principles of management is how you coordinate the efforts of people, how you reward them to motivate them to accomplish the goals and objectives set forth by the organization for successful outcomes. Having said that, let's move on to the next part of this presentation. which is levels and types of management. People in management roles in any organizations are responsible for creating and setting goals, objectives and priorities that align with the vision and the mission of the organization. So management in any organization ensures that the efforts of people and available resources are effectively and efficiently managed to achieve the desired outcomes. We read that in the definition of management. But who in an organization is management? Does the word manager in the title mean management? Or is it the top layer of the organization? Let's look at the levels of management and the roles within each level to better understand who in management is responsible for what function in the organization. The different types of management and different levels of management have their responsible tasks associated with them. There is a top level management, which is the top of the pyramid, which constitutes the CEO, the president, the board of directors, vice president, general managers, etc., etc. These are key people in any organization, very handful of them. You won't find multiple CEOs. There will be multiple board of directors, but then that's a very select profile of people who run businesses, similar businesses, and have their stake in multiple organizations most of the time. These are the people who develop goals, they develop strategic plans, company policies, and make decisions about the direction of the business. These are the ones who sit down and say, this is where we want to take this particular organization to. They run for the vision of the company and they ensure that the stakeholders get the value for the money they invest into this company. Next in the pyramid is the middle level management. Middle level management provide guidance to lower level managers and inspire them to work towards better performance. The mid-level management is working with the hands and feet on the ground. These are the people who provide the information, the strategic thinking to the top level management for them to make good decisions about the business. Next in the layer is the frontline management. As the word suggests, frontline, these are the people that assign employee tasks, guide and supervise employees. They do the QA, which is the quality assurance. They provide the technical expertise. They deal with the customers and clients, etc. These are your sales managers. These are your quality assurance managers. In the mid-level management, certain roles are director level roles and similar to that. The frontline management will be your senior managers who are actually involved in tactical day-to-day creating of tasks, making sure the actions are performed by the teams to be able to produce results that the organization needs to achieve those goals that the mid-level management is putting forth to achieve the outcomes. The bottom part of the pyramid from a management standpoint is the functional versus general management. A functional manager is a person who has management authority over an organizational unit such as a department. A general manager focuses on the entire business as a whole. So this is for example, you can say a functional manager is a line manager responsible for a certain function within the HR. So if you take the example of HR, there would be a general manager, as the English word general suggests, that this manager is responsible for entire HR as a horizontal or as a complete area of work as a business. Coming to functional managers, these people may be responsible for onboarding, offboarding alone in the HR, a function within that business. And these are also the right kind of people who are involved in day-to-day work in their roles which again aligns back to the goals and objectives set forth by the organization. So managers are the people within their organizations, those people who are responsible and accountable and most informed about what is the outcome desired from that unit by the organization. According to Peter Drucker, the best known and most widely influential thinker and writer on the subject of management theory and practice, there are 5 primary functions or traits for a manager. And as we have seen in the definition of management in previous slides, goal setting or setting of objectives is one of very important traits of a manager. Think about it. If you don't have goals, you don't know what you're aiming for. And manager is a person within the organization responsible for setting those goals for either their unit or their business or overall the organization, depending on where they are in the pyramid. Second important task or second important function of a manager is to organize tasks, resources, people. You may have heard organizations doing reorgs, or they're, every year you hear about changes happening, organizational announcements, organizational changes happening. Managers have to do those to ensure they continue to realign, they continue to streamline the way they run their businesses. And organizing people, organizing the task or resources or their own organization within the larger organization is a very important task of a manager. Another function, primary function of a manager, is to motivate and communicate. And it doesn't go one way. It has to be up, down, and around the organization. So if manager is sitting in the middle, think about 360 degree. The manager has to communicate to their subordinates, to their bosses who are higher than them in the pyramid, and around to their peers in the organization. They have to continue to motivate, to ensure that the ship hums, and it hums in a way that work is done to achieve the goals and objectives set forth by the organization. Everything has to align. And to motivate people, it's very important to ensure you communicate effectively with people. And communication is a key to let the organizations know what you have accomplished, to ask what you need to accomplish your goals, and to be able to understand from others what they need from you to be successful. Because it's a two-way street in the organization. There are other departments dependent on you, and same way you depend and rely on other groups within the organization. So communication becomes a very important aspect of it as well. One very important function, you set your goals and objectives, you make sure your workforce is aligned, and you've organized your, tasks, you have done some good team building exercises, you are rewarding people, you are doing everything to ensure your workforce is motivated and you're communicating effectively. What's the good if you don't know how you are doing against what your goals are? So measurement of results becomes another important aspect of this role. And measurement has to be against the established targets by the management or by yourself. So there is a yardstick against which you measure yourself and your team's effectiveness and the results that you produced to make sure that you are successful and delivering to what is committed to the organization. Last but not the least is develop people. People, once again, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, is a very, very important aspect in an organization. And everybody has aspirations, some big, some small. But People work in organizations, of course, to make money, but at the same time, people want growth. A good manager works towards the growth and the career aspirations of their employees. So how do you develop people? It's very important as well, and companies have programs around it, and a good manager will effectively use those programs, ensure they understand their employees, their teams so well that they know the strengths and the weaknesses of people in their teams, and help them out to grow in their own areas of strengths and work on the areas of weakness. And that way you actually develop a very healthy competition within the team. You are able to motivate people, and you're able to retain people, retain a very productive workforce within the organization, which can do wonders in terms of when you have to meet goals and you have to move forward and accomplish and be a successful team in an organization. At this point, I would like to introduce you, or rather I would say I would like to mention here that there are a few books written on the principles of management by Peter Drucker, and they're extremely good reads which take you deep into the subject about how decisions are made, and how do you hire good people. I mean, it's not about seeing a resume and talking to a person for about a half hour, 1 hour in an interview, and take a decision you like the person or not. These things require a different perspective at times, and the book by Peter Drucker on Hire Great People, it's extremely informative, and it's intriguing because you will learn how to read, because everybody tries to perform their best while they're interviewing for a job. Your resume is a marketing brochure about yourself when you are looking for a job. So how do you ensure you're hiring the person who's not just a good fit technically or in qualifications, but is a great fit as a personality within your organization, will be a good fit in your team, because you don't want all similar kind of people working in your team. It's always good to have people bringing different set of skills to have a complete bouquet of experience in your team, because when you get different perspectives in the team, that takes you a long way in achieving success as a team. There is another book by Peter on delegate when you can. A good manager knows how to delegate and who to delegate to. It's very important to delegate work, because you are building people, developing their career skills, they're developing under you in your team, and at the same time you are sparing time for yourself to do more strategic work while your teams are doing more day to day, be it operations, be it other kind of works, but delegation helps a manager focus on their primary job of being more strategic in their positions and leaving the tactical to the teams that are working on the ground with them. So I highly recommend these 3 books: Make Quality Decisions, Hire Great People, Delegate When You Can. These would be very good reads to kind of give you a good rounded information around what a good manager should possess. And these are some other books in the same series: Improve Process and Quality, Develop Yourself and Your Management Style, and Manage Risks. This course is primarily for new managers, but as you grow into your jobs, you have to keep both your technical and your management skills sharpened. That is what gives you an edge, and you continue to grow upwards. And today, in today's world, you lead by the example. You lead. Manager leads by example. So by gaining trust and respect of your team, you are going to command from the front, and people will follow you, and people who follow you will become managers tomorrow, and that's a true reflection of how good you were in your role with them. And risk management becomes a very important aspect, because you have to be able to identify the risks and then be able to put together a plan to mitigate those risks. In further in other, when we take a deep dive in other courses, we will talk about each of the areas in Peter Drucker's, as you'll read in Peter Drucker's books as well. We'll go deeper into each of those areas, but let's talk about the roles and responsibility of a new manager. We talked, as the definition of management said, management is about setting goals, utilizing people effectively, resources effectively for an organization, and ensure they are committed, their teams are committed towards again the achieving the successful outcomes and the commitments they make to the organization. So what is the role of a new manager? Manager is responsible for setting goals and objectives that the organization plans. So your top C-level organization, or the presidents, the top of the pyramid, they set the vision and the mission for the organization. The next in the level, the mid-level management, comes up with different actions or certain priorities for the business that align to those vision and mission statement, and obviously it comes with some financial number commitment for a year, 3-year, 5-year target for the organization. And the functional managers, the line managers, they all align to the top level goals that are set forth. So the manager is responsible at every level, is responsible for setting goals and objectives that the organization plans. Think about it, a sales manager for a particular group within an organization will set up targets for their group, which will contribute towards the larger number at an organizational level that the organization commits back to their stakeholders or their shareholders. And those numbers are not the only targets that the company sets. They talk about business priorities, which could be the markets they'll focus in. Will they just focus in US as a geography, or will they focus other countries or other regions as their markets? Will they focus on a particular product they are selling, or they'll focus on a group of products they are selling? So they're business priorities that company chooses, and they are typically not many. There would be 3, 4, 5, 6, but not beyond those numbers. So they would be business priorities set by the top level management. The mid-level management takes those business priorities, distills them into some specific, more tactical goals for their groups, and those and the next level of the organization takes those actions and goals and further builds more tactical level goals for their teams, and all this in the end contributes to the larger goals set by the company. So a manager is responsible for setting objectives and goals. They plan activities, they ensure they complete those efficiently and get the work done by the right kind of people they have chosen to work in their teams. And they are responsible for meeting and exceeding the goals set forth by themselves and their management for them. So having said all of that, specifically, as a manager, what do you need to do? It's day one for you in your job. And what do you need to be successful in your role? You gotta have a plan. A plan which, has got good thinking behind it. You need to have good inputs. You need to have a good direction by your senior management, because how would you align to their goals if you don't know what their goals are and how did those goals get set? So you need to understand the intent behind it. So you definitely need your upper level management approvals, their direction. You need to have good inputs. You need to clearly be able to understand what your organization's business priorities are. You need to have a team that works with you. You cannot be all by yourself, setting a goal and marching ahead with it, thinking you'll be able to achieve it on your own. You need to have a committed team that is aligned with you and towards your goals. Once you put together your plan along with your team's commitment into it, you need to communicate the plan to all stakeholders in a timely fashion. As I said before in my other slides, communication is very important, and your plan may not be all executed alone by you and your team. There are dependencies. You need help from other groups in the organization. You may need help from senior management. You may need help from IT. You may need help from sales. You may need help from HR, depending on where you are in the organization. But it's very important that you identify in your plan who the stakeholders are to execute your plan, and you communicate your plan to all these stakeholders in a timely fashion so they can plan to help you out in the execution of your plan for next year, 3 years or 5 years, depending on the duration of your plan. So definitely you got to have a plan. Then you have to build your team. You got to know who your team members are. Having good relationships is a key. No matter where you are in the organization, it's very important you build good relationships and you are always aware of what is going on with those relationships. You have to be very alert in terms of, if somebody is planning to move out because they're not happy but is a great resource for you in the organization, you better know, so that if you can, you should help them out and not lose a good resource, because it's very hard to find good people and retain them. You should be arranging team building workshops, functional trainings, etc. It's very important for people development. Team building workshops, because you may have a good group of people working for you. Each of them individually are stars in their own areas, but cannot work together effectively. Team building workshops is a great idea where you get people together, help them understand team dynamics. And there are interesting games and fun activities where people don't even realize, but they start adapting to the team environment, and it just helps people get out of their shells and communicate with each other. And once they go back after the team building activities into their real work worlds, they start working with each other better. It's amazing. In my experience, the team building workshops have had great results and great benefits in organizations where they suffered from issues related to people not being able to work together or not respecting each other's urgencies at times. Functional training, you need to have people understand the business. At times people need a bit of training to be able to perform better. So as a good manager, you definitely need to recognize those areas and be able to help out the people you want to retain with whatever training requirements they have to perform better. And then you have to make sure your team is properly staffed and there are enough adequate resources to do the job, because the moment there are bandwidth constraints, people start getting frustrated. The frustration initially may not impact, but over a period of time, either you'll have high attrition, people will start leaving the job, or the quality will go down, which both have bad, adverse effect on your performance, your team's performance, and overall company's performance. Then, when you work with your teams, you want to make sure you define the job function and responsibility for each member. It's very important, because you may assign a work to a group of 3 people, but then end of the day, who really owns it? Who's responsible for it? The ownership has to be very clearly communicated and articulated to the people in your team, so that the one who owns it has the responsibility on his shoulders to make sure the tasks that do get completed, and they own the responsibility of coordinating with the stakeholders responsible for getting the job done. That's again another very important aspect, the ownership piece. And ensure, always make sure you have a backup plan in place, because one of your star people leave, either they leave the organization, or something goes wrong, they fall sick, or could be different reasons. If they are not there, you don't want to be stuck in a position that you don't have a plan in place, a backup plan in place, and it's a huge risk to your work, to the business of the organization. So always have a backup plan in place for continuity if a team member falls sick or quits, etc. So another important aspect of your job is to monitor that your team members are doing their jobs correctly, efficiently, and on schedule. So one of the very effective ways to do is to have periodic, just set a cadence of periodic reviews with your teams. It could be, a weekly chat or a bi-weekly review call with your team. There are multiple different ways managers work with their teams to get a good snapshot of what's going on, and deep dive into areas where they feel they're it's not as good, or they sense a yellow flag or a red flag. So do set up cadence with your teams, be it weekly or monthly. There could be cadence in terms of review calls, which could be more tactical in nature, in terms of measuring or getting updates against their goals and objectives. It could be a connect call, which is just generally to talk about what's going on in their business and what are they hearing from others. It could be more informal, less of a review, but a connect call with your members, which helps you stay connected with from a people aspect standpoint, and at the same time they continue to hear from you, and they know that you are aware, and you continue to stay interested in what's going on with these people. So monitoring from both a review perspective, and at the same time to stay connected with people as well. You have to manage and resolve conflict between team members. This is one way to get to hear the voice of your employees and be able to reflect upon based, once you hear it from, if there is a conflict going on between two members, you hear from both of them, and then you are the person who helps resolving those conflicts between your team members. You as a manager will not always have all your employees very much at par, in terms of there will be some that are not as good performers as others, so you need to manage some of the problem employees. You will have to escalate things to higher management at times. It's a part of your job. It's a tough part of your job as a manager, because when you escalate things up in the ladder, it reflects upon your being as a manager, your effectiveness in being a manager. So it's very important to resolve conflicts. It's very important to stay connected with your teams, but at the same time, when things are not looking good, you need to escalate, and you are authorized to act on your own as well, as a manager in certain scenarios. So you should know when are you authorized to act on your own. But again, to mitigate risk to the business, it's important to escalate things high up in the ladder when it's needed. You have to measure the performance against established rules and yardsticks. Again, I think it's been reiterated again and again in this entire presentation. So it's a very important aspect as a part of your job. Again, coming back to delegation of work when appropriate, very important piece. You don't want to micromanage. You don't want to be the manager who rather does all the things by themselves. The perception of your team should not be, why am I doing it? My manager could have done it by themselves. They should feel empowered. They should feel that, enabled, that their manager has enabled them, empowered them to do the work. That's how a good delegation happens. It shouldn't be by micromanagement. But do remember, you are still accountable for the outcomes. You are the one who committed the outcomes to your management with the help of your team. But end of the day, that ownership lies with you. You have to assign self-contained tasks to other staff members and make sure you give them outcomes that you desire out of those tasks. The best way to delegate it is, a big piece of work, break it into chunks and assign it to different people within your team. Tell them what the end result for each of the tasks is, and when they come back to you, what is the deliverable or what is the goal you expect back from them. So moving on, you have to create a productive work environment. Again, your work environment should be such that employees feel empowered. They feel they can express themselves freely. They work together as a team. They are very confident that somebody is there, always watching that they develop in their careers. So the development of employees is a very important aspect of your job. Ensure your periodic cadence with them is set in a way where they have opportunity to give feedback to you, and you give feedback back to them. It's very important, and the feedback has to be both ways. So managers should be ready for some critical feedback as well, both positive, negative, but more so critical, because that helps you in your development as well. And as new managers, I would highly encourage all of you to seek critical feedback from your teams, because there is immense learning when you are managing teams, because you have your own style of working. At times somebody else in your team watching you from outside will come back and tell you, hey, you did a great job in that meeting, but you know what, I felt that the client was hesitant when you asked this question. And that may give you a hint that maybe there could have been a better way to ask a question. So always be open, constructive about getting feedback on yourself from your team. And I would say create an environment with your team where they can give feedback to you as well. You should be able to recognize and reward and celebrate effort and performance. Anybody who does good in your team should be rewarded. And not just because they did a great job, it's a high encouragement for others in the team to do good. Be honest with your team and always defend your team. That's a great asset for any manager, that you fight for them, you defend them. If it's a great team, if you have a good team of people, stand by them. They need you at every point in their careers in that organization. You are the person they're looking up to when it comes to their rights, their benefits, anything they're fighting for in the organization. So it's a manager's responsibility. Just like a child looks up to his parents for everything. If they are feeling low, if they have a fight with someone, they look up to their parents. Similarly, your team looks up to manager as somebody who can fight for them. So I mean, not stretching it more, but the productive work environment that you create will definitely produce the results that you desire and as laid out or as committed by you to your management. So it's very important for you to ensure that your team members always follow the company's etiquette. They're ethical, have high integrity, they follow policies, they're always compliant, which is very important. A good work ethic and compliance is very important for an effective and a productive work environment. So ensure that people follow the policies and have a good work ethic, and they're all compliant to what the company expects them to conduct. And when in doubt, ask a more experienced manager for advice. I'm sure each organization has people who have been working there for long to understand that organization's culture. But around us in everyday lives, in our network of people, if you look around, there are people who are more experienced than us. So I would say have a mentor, somebody you can go and ask a question and you don't feel threatened, but you ask a question and they're able to sort out any doubts or concerns you have in your mind. and with social media presence today, it's huge benefit to all of us to be able to connect with people from whom we can derive some value and be able to give value back to them as well. So I would highly encourage everyone to have a diverse network of people, and at least identify one or two such people you can go back, feel not threatened to go back and talk to and get advice from. It's important to know about your company and its structure and its product services. You should know your customers very well and know your competition very well. As a new manager, your team will come and ask for your help in all these areas. So you better be prepared. You should know your organization. You should know your job well. You should know your customers very well. You should know who your competition is. Very important. With that, we end this course about the introduction to management. As I said in the beginning of the course, it was an introductory course, just talking about what management is and what is the role and responsibility of a manager. What is the function of a new manager into an organization? I hope you have all been able to gain some information out of this course, and wish you all the very best of luck in your roles. And the books I suggested, I would highly recommend you go out to your libraries or bookstores and get the books and read them. It will be it's very good information and will be helpful to all of you in your roles. So once again, all the best and good luck. Thank you.